Hello and welcome to this video tutorial focusing on Bacchus Norform. In this tutorial we will look at an examination question from the June 2012 OCR paper F453, question 7 section B. This question focuses on Bacchus Nor, as you might expect. So let's see what the exam board have to say. Well, the exam board provide this information. You're given the following information. A programming language allows statements to be written. Okay. Each statement may be a comment or a piece of code. Okay, so we know that a statement has to have two elements in it, or could have two elements in it. Comments must have 0 or more characters surrounded by curly brackets. Now, previously remember, curly brackets mean it is optional. May have nothing in it, or may have many elements in it. So may have many characters or no characters at all. See what other information the exam board provide to us. The exam board say a piece of code has 1 or more characters. Okay. For example, brace, brace, and brace, a comment, brace are both comments. And this is code is a piece of code. Okay. The symbols bracket and bracket, or brace and brace rather, are not considered to be characters, so it wouldn't trip the syntax up. So let's see what else the exam board provide in way of application. So chevron, char, chevron represents any character, and statement within chevrons, comment within chevrons, and code within chevrons represent statements, comments, and pieces of code respectively. Okay. So what do they want us to do? Well, the exam board say, to begin with, write BNF, Bacchus Norform definitions in their simplest form, so that's at the meta level, for code. Alright, so we need to think, well, so what does code mean? Okay. Okay, for example, brace and brace are comments above codes, and this is code is a piece of code. Right, so we're going to define what code means. Let's have a think about this. Well, we're going to define something. We know that we need to use the brackets, or so the chevrons, and the definition. Remember, it's called code, so we are saying this item code is defined as, well, let's see what the exam board say it is defined as. Okay, if we come up here, so a programming language must allow statements to be written. Each statement may be a comment or a piece of code. Each statement may be a comment or a piece of code. Remember that? Comments must have 0 or more characters surrounded by curly brackets. Piece of code has 1 or more characters. 1 or more characters. So let's see what the answer would be. If we unhide this, so the definition of code is that it is a character or a character and a piece of code, or character and code. And does that conform to what they say up here? Well, let's have a look. Piece of code has 1 or more characters. So we come down here, character or another character and code. Remember, this is at the top level. Now the exam board say, in terms of handout marks, this question was worth 2 marks. You get marks for defining character and using the or symbol, and another mark for the second half of the definition, which is char and code. Okay. So, what else do the exam board in this question actually do? Well, they say, write BNF, Bacchus Norform definitions in the simplest form for comment. Right, so we know that we have to start to define comment. So if I just unhide that for us, well, so there we are. So comment in the chevrons is defined as. So let's see what the exam board say a comment could be. For example, empty braces and something in the braces are both comments. And this is called as a piece of code, right? So, okay. So they want you to define a comment. Well, let's have a look. Remember, a comment can be empty braces, or you can also have code as a comment. But because it's a comment, it has to be surrounded by the braces. Because remember, a code by itself, if that was outside of the braces, would actually be code. When it's inside the braces, it's treated as a comment. So in other words, it's not anything to do with the runtime. Let's see how the exam board dish out the marks for this 2-mark question. They say you get marks for defining the comment. So if you're doing this almost by rote, if you know you've got to define something, the structure that you need to have is the notation, comma, colon, colon, equal sign, and of course whatever the word is, or the syntactical element, inside the chevrons, and then we take the next piece of information from what the exam board tell us, that, for example, this is a comment, and so we're defining a comment, so we then say, okay, so that is a comment, but we know that it's going to have potentially 2 elements, so or, and if I unhide that one, it's code within the braces. How do we know it's code within the braces? Well, here we go. That and a comment are both comments, and this is code as a piece of code, so something inside it. Let's have a look at the third one now. Statement, they want you to define in Backus-Naur form, at the simplest form, so at the highest meta level, a statement. Let's see what a statement is. Right, here we go. Char represents any character and statement. Comment and code represent statements, comments, and pieces of code, respectively. Right, now up here, so we're making a note of it. Each statement may be a comment or a piece of code. So we know that that is going to be the vertical line. We know that we have to define statements. So we're already on the road to building marks. So let's see how we can start this. Well, we always start when we're defining an item or the syntactical element, is by putting the name of it inside the chevrons. And then we use the is defined by or consists of symbol, colon, colon, equal sign. Now up here, we know that, oh, here we go. Comments must have 0 or more characters or more curly brackets. We need to define our statement, so we know a statement can either be a comment or, there's our symbol for or a statement can be a piece of code. So let's see how the exam board dish out these 3 marks. For mark, you need to have the comment or part, the right hand section, and the statement is defined by part. To get the second mark, or to get a mark, if you've defined code in there somewhere, you get that. Get the 2 together, and that is 3 marks. So, this question is from the examination June 2012 series, OCR, question 7b. All of the past papers can be found on the OCR exam board and all the other exam boards as well, publish theirs, along with the mark scheme. So what I suggest that you do now is that you practice Backus-Naur form notation using past questions, because then that will give you some idea, although it's not the total answer, but it will give you some idea as to what the exam board might expect.